And now for something really exciting. Cruise planning and cruising course, the formalities of cruising in foreign waters. It is important to understand what you will need and what to expect as you travel across borders. As of 2013, there were programs in place to make it easier to visit our neighboring countries. And just to break up the monotony, here's some pictures from our 2015 BVI trip. You see the dinner scene from Cooper Island. Down below that is Saba Rock. They are rebuilding that now. And then the other is Marina Key. That was where a Pussers was. After the hurricane, they did recover the phone booth. Here's the 2017 group that went with us. So quite a large group. In 2019, this was the year after the hurricane. Canes came through. You can see the picture in the top left of the raft up. The next picture was a picture of us sailing from the North Sound to over towards Joost Van Dyke. And then Sydney's Peace and Love, that is on Joost Van Dyke in the Great Harbor. So embassies, consulates, and consular agents are key sources of not only regulatory advice, but also more general tourist information. Foreign embassies are usually in the capital city, while foreign consulates will be in other major cities. If a foreign country does not have an embassy or consulate in a particular country, then it may rely on a consular agent. When planning a cruise abroad, you should request information from the embassies of the countries to be visited. Embassies provide all information needed for such a visit, such as visas, restrictions on pets and firearms, and the locations and office hours of customs authorities. They usually will provide brochures and pamphlets on points of interest and things to do. The State Department has an excellent website, www.travel.state.gov. This site has information about countries you plan to visit and requirements for visas. You will not be able to get specifics about yachting questions, but they can steer you in the right direction. One of the best sources for yachting information is Jimmy Cornell's website, www.noonsite.com. The first thing that you will need to visit other countries, a U.S. passport. These are issued by the Department of State to U.S. nationals. Anyone cruising abroad must have a valid passport or one of the acceptable substitutes mentioned. Be sure that everyone aboard has his or own passport. Confirms everybody's passport will be valid for 6 to 12 months after you expect the trip to end. Remember that the prime purpose of a U.S. passport for an American citizen is to be able to get back into the United States. And just as a side note, allow ample time to apply and receive your passport, especially in the current situation with COVID-19. There may not be as much staff as previously. So in the past, 45 days was usually plenty of time, but I would suggest a couple months at this point, if not 3. Under the Program to Tighten U.S. Security, the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative, U.S. citizens returning home from Canada, Mexico, the Bahamas, the Caribbean islands, or Bermuda by land, air, or sea are now required to present one of the applicable travel documents listed below. a U.S. passport, or a U.S. passport card. A U.S. passport card is a new limited use travel document adopted in 2008 that fits in your wallet and costs less than a U.S. passport. It is only valid for travel by land and sea. Enhanced driver's license. Several states and Canadian provinces are issuing this driver's license that denotes identity and citizenship. It is specifically designed for cross-border travel into the U.S. by land or sea. Trusted traveler program cards, Nexus, Century, Fast, commercial truckers only. Enrollment cards can speed entry into the U.S. and are issued only on pre-approval. Low-risk travelers. The approval process includes background checks against law enforcement database and terrorist indices and an interview. The cards are valued for use by land or sea entries. The Nexus card, however, can also be used in airports with a Nexus kiosk. I'd just like to remind everyone this documentation is based on 2013, so I'm not sure if some of these programs still exist. The Nexus card, that's a joint US-Canada program so that you can cross the borders more easily using self-serve kiosk at airports. The Century card, like Nexus, that is a card that provides expedited processing pre-approved low-risk travelers for U.S. entry by land or sea, but at the U.S.-Mexico border. And then here's a sample of the different cards. U.S. citizens may need a visa issued by the country they wish to visit in order to enter the country. The visa states the reason for the visit and the allowable length of stay. Not all countries require a visa. FYI, the British Virgin Islands do not require one for the length of time that we will be there. But if you're traveling elsewhere, it is a good idea to check to determine what the requirements are for visas and other items. Each country has their own customs and border protection organizations and processes. We will first cover the process in general and then go in specifics with our neighboring countries. Upon entering a port in a foreign country for the first time, contact port official via radio. Then at that point, you would raise the Q flag, that's quarantine flag, request pratique. Please note that Canada has dispensed with the flag Q requirement. After clearance to enter has been granted, the flag Q is lowered and the courtesy flag is raised as a sign of respect. The courtesy flag is usually the national maritime flag, sometimes the national flag of the host country. Some countries are quite adamant about flying their flag. That is a picture of a Q flag. Looks very similar to one of the flags that we use at CLSA for the racing sequence. These are our neighbors' courtesy flags. We have Canada, Mexico, British Virgin Islands, and the Bahamas. So when we're down in the BVIs, all the boats, regardless of where they're listed from, will have a BVI flag on them. The entry process will typically involve a minimum the following first two items and most likely one or more of the others. Meeting with the captain, so a broad range of questions about the cruise, the vessel, and everyone and everything that is on board. Examination of the documents, they'll look at the passports, visas, vessel ownership, passenger list, proof of solvency. They may ask for items such as insurance and other paperwork. They may review and inventory the item lists, item and equipment lists, such as food, liquor, firearms. A vessel inspection, including custom searches for contraband, could occur. There, they're looking for narcotics, liquor, firearms, ammunition. There could be a medical inspection. So they may come on board with a doctor and check everyone's health. They may interview some or everyone that is on board, and there will be forms that most likely need to get filled out. When arriving in a foreign country, be sure to go to a designated port of entry, a port that has facilities for processing foreign vessels and those on board. Entry at other harbors is not permissible, and the local police may take over. In some countries, failing to enter and exit through the proper harbor can result in fines, penalties, or even criminal charges. So, the important question when entering a foreign port is whether or not to seek port officials or wait for them to come to the vessel. There are different stories that circulate about difficulties encountered in some ports where eager cruisers have rowed ashore when they should have waited. A rule of thumb is to wait 2 to 4 hours after raising the Q flag and repeated efforts to contact the port official. Use the VHF radio, or if it's available, a telephone. If it's not successful, the captain alone should go ashore with the necessary papers for the vessel and the crew and try to find the officials. Again, the crew must stay aboard until clearance is given. A port physician or other health official will visit the boat and either issue free pratique or require the vessel to wait at quarantine anchorage for clearance. In this day and age of global travel, the visit and/or physical exam may not be required, but health certificates, proof of immunizations, and other health-related information might be. It is still unclear what will be the requirement as we enter into the British Virgin Islands next year. It sounds like there will be some medical testing and checks. At least that's what's going to happen this fall in the BVIs. It's unclear what will happen at that point when we're there. Pets. If you bring pets, you will need to have their vaccination records, other records about the dogs. So if an animal is on board, a port veterinarian may visit the boat to make sure the animal is healthy before allowing it to go ashore. Health and/or rabies vaccination certificates may substitute for a physical exam. Try to obtain copies of any papers that must be filled out to show medical officials in the next port of call. Quarantine. It is not unusual for an animal to be quarantined during visits to some countries. This can be a restriction either to the vessel or to a compound on shore. If the boat is anchored or moored, there may be less of a problem since the boat serves as quarantine. When an animal is quarantined, the officials usually let the skipper visit to determine whether the pet is getting proper care. So plan to arrive during weekday business hours when you can expect customs offices to be open. Take note of holidays, lunch hours. All countries have prohibitions and restrictions about what can be brought into the country. You should have a sealable, secure locker where weapons, ammunition, flare pistols, and alcohol may be stored. If the vessel is being searched, the crew must remain calm and cooperative. The skipper should accompany those searching the boat to ensure their honesty and his own cooperation. If officials ask about firearms, declare them, but you should not try to take firearms into countries that prohibit them. Be careful about communicating with other vessels, hailing a yacht, or establishing any communication before clearing customs, for example, is strictly prohibited throughout the Caribbean islands. The job of immigration officials is to make sure that you have the proper papers to visit their country. They want to see passports, visas, and other travel documents. After you are cleared into port, the port captain, harbor master, or other designated official will direct you to the appropriate anchorage, mooring, or dock for transient yachts. Departure procedures can take anywhere from a few minutes to many hours. It is important to get in touch with port officials before your planned departure to confirm departure procedures and notify them of the time you wish to leave. Once you have your clearance, some ports want you to leave immediately, although some may let you stay until next day. It is always better to be cleared the day before you leave, and if this is the plan, make a polite request and promise to keep the crew aboard until departure. This concludes part 1 of this course, the formalities of cruising in foreign waters.